10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yance, and today I have part 2 of my interview with Christopher Renshaw, the Tony-nominated director of The King and I, as well as Taboo on Broadway. So enjoy. And now you talked about, so through the success of The King and I, you started now dabbling in Hollywood. I'm curious, what kind of films inspire you? What kind of films do you like?
Oh, I'm a great film guy. I never thought I would ever direct one, and strangely enough, I haven't. After The King and I, which was a very filmic production, I was invited over by Patrick Swayze, actually.
Really?
Said, I want you to, yeah, it was an amazing time. And I moved, I bought a house and I bought a sports car. I did the whole thing. And I learned so much. But as a film goer, I like anything. I mean, I love things with bite. I mean, favorite movies. It's hard. It wasn't hard to remember your favorite movies, but The Hours had a huge effect on me. I love The Hours.
It's a great film.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't for want of trying. I got so close to directing movies that we even had a first day of shooting once planned and a cast, and then we lost the rights, and that was it just didn't quite work out, and probably a good thing because I hate early mornings. So I was in a way quite relieved. I thought, oh, good, I don't have to. Then I started doing musicals again, and and I sold my house.
I have a feeling, though, that your attention to detail and your ideas would translate well to film, because they would be abstract. I think of, I'm a big David Lynch fan, and he's somebody who writes from, dreams. And I think you would come from more of taking that set idea and forming a film through that, which I would have been intrigued to see, because I just, I'm always fascinated with like new ideas with film, because sometimes I feel with film, it can just kind of stay in the same place. And like I just saw the film, David Cronenberg's film, Crimes of the Future, which he's dealing with, people would say he's a body horror director, but I wouldn't say this is really body horror. This is kind of looking at the body in the future, because it takes place in a time period of where there is no disease, there is no, so one of the things that people do as performance art is like kind of take out their organs and desecrate their flesh. And it's quite it's an interesting film, because it really, it's kind of unsettling at times, but it's like, I'm glad that there are directors that will push that. It's not all films, not all theater needs to make you feel like, oh, what a wonderful day. It's sometimes it could just make you think. And that's, so I like that you used The Hours. I mean, that was, you look at Nicole Kidman in that film, you look at, Julianne Moore. I mean, it just, all these different elements in the different time periods. I mean, that's it's a great thing. Taking it back to so now you get back into musicals, and now you're going to work with Queen. We Will Rock You. Now they say the band doesn't want to do it personal, which is something they have done many times. They're very protective of the band, Brian May specifically. Did you find that difficult? I mean, like, was that were you like ready to go, and then it was like, we don't want to do this, change it? Or was it in the conception?
I did develop another story for them, which they eventually found they didn't want. It was actually, that musical would have been closer to the recent movie, the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
But this was a long time ago. And when they didn't want to go that way, and that version was actually produced in Workshop, famous old Workshop by Robert De Niro, and that didn't happen. But at least I got to work with De Niro and wonderful people like Kristen Chenoweth and John Cameron Mitchell. I mean, the cast was amazing. But they didn't pursue it, but they were kind enough to ask me to direct another completely different version because they'd enjoyed working with me on this workshop. So of course I did it, and it ran for 12 years. Very different from what originally I would have done, but quite a fun ride.
What did you learn from John Cameron Mitchell?
Oh, what a great! He's a stunning actor. He's a very. I mean, they all were. He's a very. This was before Hedwig.
Really,
extraordinary, gifted person. I think he played Roger, the drummer. It's such a long time ago. Kristen Chenoweth played Montserrat Caballé, the opera singer. Oh, and there were some good people. Wilson Aradia, who got the Tony for Rent, he played Freddie. It was a fun workshop, but that was just an experiment, and one has to be eternally grateful to the band for letting me do a different version, which was 12 years in the West End. Not bad.
What was Robert De Niro's feeling about it? What did he like? How did he?
He loves Queen. He liked both versions. An extremely nice man, very polite, very good. A little bit terrifying, but not actually not. Just a very, very nice person, I thought. It was amazing to have gotten so close to him.
Interesting. Now you do Taboo with Boy George.
Yeah, my idea went off to see George, met him, and happened really quickly. A brilliant workshop, which actually was produced in London 9 months after that workshop. So I think that's a record.
And you brought it, and you did it like in a disco.
I wanted to. The first one was in a vault of a church in Leicester Square that had never been used as a theatre. And then it made its famous excursion to Broadway, with Rosie O'Donnell, that didn't work. And then it went back to London, and we did it in a disco. And I've just done the 20-year birthday at the London Palladium with 2,800 people there for 2 nights. That was fantastic. So Taboo has been with me a lot, and whether it will ever happen again, I don't know. But it's been an extraordinary ride, that show. Amazing.
Do you think Taboo was just, I don't know, not Broadway enough, or was it too much, or was it too small to be big kind of circumstance?
Yes, I think that's true. And Rosie was, having problems with her magazine. It was all at the time when she was on the front page of every tabloid. It was a tricky time. So it was one of those things. We certainly weren't an unnoticed show.
Yeah.
But Stephen Sondheim did come to it and wrote to George and said,
"Really,
I think this is one of the best musicals I've ever seen." I personally prefer the London version, which is very different. The London version was very, very out there, very anarchic. The Broadway version is more of a telling of the stories of Boy George and Lee Bowery. They're very different shows with the same music. The London one was anarchism, and the one we did recently, 3 months ago at the Palladium, was very anarchic. And that the London fans just loved all that. And it would be wonderful if somebody does it one day. His music that he wrote for the show, George's music, he's a genius. Just an amazing writer and lyricist.
Do you think it would have worked better if you had just leaned more into the anarchic style in the abstract
Uh,
style, or do you
yes,
think
and
it just would never have gotten seen because you would have producers going, "What is this? This doesn't make any
um,
sense. I don't get it."
it might have. You see, then it wouldn't have been. I mean, look what's happening now on Broadway with The Strange Loop getting the Tony. It
Yeah,
wasn't. It wasn't then. It wasn't 2004 that could have happened. But perhaps if we'd have started it downtown or Manhattan Theatre Club, or it could have had a different life. But so what we did was a more palatable telling of those extraordinary times in London. But I mean, who knows?
yeah, yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I find it a fascinating story because I feel like it could have worked, but it shouldn't have been brought like straight to Broadway. I think, like you said, starting off more off Broadway and getting the
Yeah.
city used to it and giving them
Yes.
a reason to be like,
Exactly.
we need more people to see this.
Yes.
Because,
But
you
look,
know,
Michael R. Jackson, 20 years to get Strange Loop to where it is now. It takes that kind of time and
yeah.
special marketing and all the rest of it. But anyway.
Yeah. Moving on to Zorro, because I was fascinated
Oh,
reading about what um you said. I'm paraphrasing here. You said, I feel like a lot of these cultures are always looking for some savior to plunge them out of danger. And the thing that I kept when I read that, I started going, it's very similar to what's going on, I think, with superheroes today. I mean, Zorro is kind of the first, in some ways, you could say the first superhero to
yes.
take that, the savior. And I was thinking about the parallels between that and religion. Because there's, religion, there's always the savior, and then and with superheroes, there's always the savior, and how they're kind of linked, you know.
Yes. And you've got to remember Zorro, when I was asked to do Zorro, well, we first did it in London 2008. And a gentleman called Barack Obama had just been elected president of the state. So I was very much thinking of that and thinking of
Yeah.
a savior, yes, who, yeah, I mean, you're right. Even Mr. Jesus, look at his sense of equality,
Yeah.
and, so cultures are constantly searching for saviors, and they reject them.
Yes, that's the funny thing. Yeah, we don't really learn from history. If
No,
history teaches us really anything, you find that we really don't learn from it. We just
yeah,
continue to make the same
it just
mistakes in different
goes round in circles.
things. It's just a big circle. Yeah. Because in that same interview, you talked about gypsies, and you said that their access to fire and passion is something that you don't see in the British culture. I would dare say also in the American culture. Do you think it's because it's too uptight? I would say both are
Yeah,
in need of fire and passion, because we don't really allow for expression to be in. We kind of want everybody to kind of conform, not necessarily. It can be clothing and style, but it's more conforming to just the way you behave in public. I
yeah,
think is something that I think gypsies are more, when you're open to fire and passion, there's nothing stopping you from just taking this, thing over here, just slamming it off the table and just, jumping onto the table and dancing or something, which in this culture and I would say in British culture would be frowned on if you did that in a restaurant. You just slammed all the dishes off and just jumped on it. Unless you're
yes,
Richard Branson, who is known to do stuff like that.
yes.
So I thought,
I'm very attracted to cultures that take risks. Mm,
yeah. Do
That's
do you find do you do you find America and Britain to be too analytical?
um,
I know that's a broad
well,
question.
it's a very broad. I don't know. There are so many Americas now. I don't know how. And I said earlier, going back to my own country, it's changed. I don't know. Um, I just want people to move on and embrace the world as a fantastic
Yeah.
unit. And I mean, that I don't know about this country. I mean, I'm still attracted to this country,
Yeah.
and I've met great people here. Um, I can't really answer that. I mean, yes, I mean, therapy. Even I've gotten into that now, analyzing everything. Can't really answer that. I'm deeply happy about where I live, and I don't think I want to live anywhere else. So there must be something still right in this country, and
Yes.
there are wonderful people around. Um,
Interesting. One of the plays I didn't hear enough about, in some of the intro is Pure Imagination. Talk a little bit. I don't really have a lot of facts for this one. This one is, you'll probably shock me with everything. So
no, it's pure imagination. Literally, because I met one of the great lyricists who had 2 Oscars, Leslie Brickers, who has recently passed on, who is one of the great English treasures, a great lyricist, and also became a composer. But he wrote with Anthony Newley, and he wrote well, 2 Oscars. Now I'm not going to remember which songs. Talk to the Animals from Doolittle, and he got another Oscar. But I met him personally. Now I can't remember why. And gorgeous wife, and I just he was talking about the one man show of all his lyrics, and we got it to happen. So that's as simple as that. And a wonderful man, gentleman, a real English gent. And I just love being in his presence, and I wanted to do that for him, and we did it.
mm. Now, Carbon La Cubana, you said that you were really taken by the Cuba, the love for
Mm,
life, even though they're under harsh circumstances.
amazing, and it was an extraordinary experience, and tough, and God, they're good people. And that's one of my favorite projects. The problem is it's actually better in Spanish. I did a workshop in English in New
Mm,
York. It was okay, but it works better in Spanish. So the future of
yeah,
that show will always be in Spanish.
yeah.
And as I said, I hope it finds a place. Great arrangements by Alex Lackamore, who arranged Hamilton. So it has really good pedigree. And he's originally from Cuba, or his family is. And God, he writes well for a Cuban band. Oy, 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 it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Interesting, interesting. And the last one, like right before the pandemic, A Wonderful World, you talk about the time period and how that really you didn't want to just do a musical about like, okay, here are the hits, or as we would call the jukebox musical, where it's just like, here are all the hits. It's just the greatest hits for somebody, that doesn't look exactly like the person. Whereas here you felt that this gave you a chance to talk about issues because of what's going on in the time period.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that show.
Um, well, I originally felt the subject was too big. It's my first black show.
Mm,
I mean, it's just a massive subject, and Louis Armstrong is a American icon. He's an African American icon. A long career full of many things. I felt I couldn't do it. Um, um, but then I found out that he'd been married 4 times, and that gave me the way in to try and tell it from the viewpoint of these 4 very different women as they each married him. And we've slightly compressed history a bit, but it kind of becomes the spring, summer, autumn, and winter of his life. And I felt that might give me a way of telling it. And it did. And that's moving on, hopefully, well, more than hopefully, and a great experience here. this Miami New Drama is a wonderful theatre. So that's what's really involving me for the future.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it comes together and sees the
Yeah,
light.
but that sounds like that would play really well. I mean, when I was looking at it and I was watching, some of it, yeah, that it's kind of a sad thing because the pandemic just kind of, took it
Yeah,
away.
but these
But
things are there. These things are there to try us, and it might make it a better show eventually for giving us more time to really think about it.
yeah,
I don't think one can look at anything as a bad. You have to look at, okay, well, perhaps it wasn't quite ready. So we're a bit back in development now because we got hit twice by the pandemic. The first time we did it, and the second time. So,
yeah.
but we're moving ahead, and let's hope it. There's a wonderful world to be seen soon somewhere.
Yeah, no, I like. All right, now we're getting to The Code, which is the play I saw, and I just thought this was a terrific show. It really reminded me of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf,
Really?
in that
Okay.
all four of them kind of like bickering. I could see Martha and everything. What? Tell me about your experience doing that play.
Oh, it's lovely, yeah, because Michael McKeever, who wrote The Code, was in the first A Wonderful World. We were very, he did a small role. I mean, did several roles, but he had a great time. I had a great time working with him. We became friends, and sort of we met. And so I said, "Well, have you got anything at the moment? I feel like doing a small play." He said, "Oh, I've just finished." Simple as that. And I read it and really liked it. And I did a reading for Palm Beach Drama Works on Zoom, and it went very well. In which I met Tom Wall, who was playing Billy Haynes, and it just kind of happened. And Michael came up with the idea of doing it at the Foundry, which I was a bit nervous of because I knew they did lots of very sort of explicit content.
Yes.
Ronnie Larson, who's a force of nature and a really nice guy,
he really is.
He got it there, and they worked hard, and it was a without any problems, all pleasure. Really enjoyed the cast, really enjoyed working with Ronnie. I loved his approach to the audiences. It was kind of being like reborn, because I've done so many big stuff, and suddenly to be that, and I was buying the props, I was the kind of acting as production manager, and I really enjoyed it. And seeing Ronnie going out of that house, pouring out glasses of white wine and warming the audience up, I just think it was fun. And
he's almost, he's performing when he goes out there. It's like, oh, look who's here in the audience. We have this person here. It's like he's riling them up to get them ready, as opposed to,
he's
welcome
cool.
to the show. Yeah,
and I told him I would love to work there again, and I've just got to find something that he feels can bring in his house. And I think it's good that they're not always doing explicit stuff, and they can. There's a place for that. I'm not against it, but nice that he can vary it a bit. And the audience seemed to love what is basically quite a serious play with The Code, and it's funny, but it's not a no flesh in sight. And he's had a good response from the audience, and they're looking forward to mixing their rep.
I would like to see that, because I feel like their audience can handle that. For a long time, he was very against that. And I saw The Code and I saw the response to that, and I was like, okay, this is good. That they need to do more straight theater.
Why not? With obviously a gay theme, and those two theaters, I think the one up next door, Island City, I mean, they have a kind of gay policy, don't they? I don't know whether they.
They're both kind of they both lend themselves to that style of gay.
Look at where they are, but gay themes are universal. So No, I
Yeah.
really look forward to going back there, and I just had I had a really nice time. And of all the shows I've ever directed, I saw the code more often than I've ever seen any of my other shows. Even with the travel,
Really?
yeah, I loved going there. I just, it kind of gives you, it reinvents your original love of making
Yeah.
theatre and just getting up and
Yeah.
performing and hearing people laugh. And so it did me a lot of psychological good.
That's good.
You know,
Now, did
and
you come up with the idea of the set? Was
well,
that your
Michael and I
conception?
worked. Yeah, I mean that's a typical Chris set, but Michael and I did it together. But I didn't want, because he's the most famous designer in Hollywood, Billy Haynes, and no way can you do that, or would want to do that. So,
Yeah.
and I think Michael said, "Let's do black white." And all I wanted was to make it look like a black box. So went to Home Depot and got all those bricks and painted them black. So actually, it was a
Oh,
black
wow.
box, but I don't think Ronnie's ever done it as cleanly as that.
Yeah,
And
that's
all
what I
the
liked about it. It was so clean and
yeah,
pristine. It had this look. It could be in any time period, almost.
yes.
Feel like it gave it a timeless feel to it. Is
And
the
I
way I
got
saw
rid of.
it.
I mean, I got away with furniture that was, but I just wanted it all glass, white and glass. So from a period point of view, I'd have been given a D minus, but I just wanted something that looked like something, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed doing that. Um, so now
Yeah.
they have. I think they've kept that black box. So if anybody wants a black box, they've got one. You know,
Interesting.
which is, it
Interesting.
makes the stage look bigger. I think. Anyway, I'm
Did
looking forward to my next
did
show, The
you
Foundry.
the
That shall be
Foundry?
in it.
Yeah.
I call
Did
it.
you
It's very British. The Foundry.
did
That's you're going to be
did
in
you
that
did
one.
I hope so. I hope you'll consider me for that. When you were did you find that you had to do a lot of research on the time period,
Yes.
or did you
And
feel a lot of it was built into the script?
I always like to feel I know at least as much as the actors. So there's some great books that are helpful on that. And
Mm,
especially the book on Billy Haynes is a must. It's a very good book. It's called Wisecracker. Very good book. I also read one on the agent Henry Wilson.
mm,
And that book covers Rock Hudson, who obviously the young man character is sort of a kind of Rock Hudson type. Somebody has to deny their sexuality to be a star. So I
yeah.
felt pretty covered. And I did a musical very early about Tallulah Bankhead. So I do know quite a lot about Tallulah, and I'm a fan. So, but I had a good time on that one. And Michael's such a good man.
What was it like directing the playwright as he's in
Um, it's
the
kind
show?
of weird. He kept saying, ignore me," but it was sort of. I was concerned about that, but we got on fine. I mean, he's a sweetheart, and but I think it was my first time doing that. But look at Tracy Letts; he's in his own play on Broadway at the moment, isn't he? So it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. That's it. That's interesting. Yeah. No, Michael's such a giving person. So, you can tell he's not going to be the type that's going to be like, okay, no, this needs to stay. This needs to stay red or whatever. When I did my interview with him a couple of weeks ago, he, said, if it's green, it doesn't necessarily have to be green. And, he's very, just go with the flow. He's not set
Yeah.
like the writing is the writing, but when it comes to the production, he's able to let things go, which is kind of a rarity in some, because a lot of playwrights, we're dealing with, eccentric personalities. So, it's like for him to be that willing to just go, I joke with him. I say, I think it's because you come from that commercial background of storyboarding and everything. So you're able to just let it go because you're looking at the final product, as opposed to most where they're looking for these like specific things. No, it must be green. Why does it need to be green? because it's what I saw in my head. It's that, kind of thing.
No, he's a wonderful guy.
Yeah. Now, wrapping up here a little bit, one of the things I love that you said music theater is creating, and opera is interpreting. Can you talk a little bit about that? Or is this too far gone? Or am I talking about something like for the 80s and you're like, wait, I'm not going to remember that?
It's how I feel. And I think I mentioned earlier that in opera, I mean, certainly when I was around, and this is a terrible generalization, and to all my opera friends, I would say I'm so sorry, but at that time, it was how outrageous you could set it. So I couldn't do that. I wasn't one of those people. I did some odd ones, but opera's it is a question of when did I say that in some interview to you?
Yeah, it was. I believe it's in the same interview where you were talking to. You were talking about Zorro and Gypsy.
What music theatre has allowed me to do is start with a clean slate. So opera, you're always with the composer, you're with the conductor, who have immense power in opera. Music was like, here we go, you're the boss, do it. And it's not because I'm autocratic, I love that creation. And now you're going to say, well, I did The King and I, which is written, but I haven't recently done anything that isn't new. Which I suppose, to your point, in film, you're creating new stuff. Perhaps I like that. And I do steer clear of things that have been written, because I think, God, anything decent's been, I mean, who at the moment would do Company again? It's like, I don't think I'm very good at that. Anyway, perhaps I could be, but tell me a show I can recreate, and I'll do it. I was just thinking about you playing in The Vortex. Do you know The Vortex? Of Noah Coward?
No.
Read The Vortex. No. You'd have to find a great movie-like lady star. I've always wanted to do The Vortex.
Okay. No, I'm gonna definitely read.
But that's a revival. I was just running my head through what plays they could do at I mean, look, I was just looking at you thinking, oh, you'd be good in The Vortex. I think Rupert Everett did it last. And I did a reading with another movie star man. Anyway, have a read.
All right. I like Noel Coward, so yes, I'm definitely going to read that. Okay. One thing I love that you said, I don't mind where I am really, as long as it doesn't stay the same. And I think that's so true to me. I don't want to, you don't want to be, I don't know, maybe this has changed for something, but it's like, I've noticed that about you. You have your English, when you were in England, then you went to London, then you went to Australia, then you've been in New York, now you've been in LA, now you're in Miami. I like that you've moved. I mean, Thailand, you seem to always want to be adding more to the, you don't seem like somebody who's just going to sit back and be like, it's enough.
Unfortunately, I'm getting older now, so I think, oh God, I don't know where else to go. And I'm amazed I said that.
Antarctica, here's the next one. There's no life there. It's kind of funny. Like if you there really isn't any country in Antarctica. It's just Antarctica, the continent. And there's not really nobody really wants it. So there's no countries fighting over it. It's like the only place it's just Antarctica.
Yeah,
we don't have cities or borders.
So let's do The Vortex in Antarctica. With
there you go.
Couple of seals as an audience.
Yes, we've got a non-paying audience today. It's a penguin and a seal. One thing I also liked, you seem to be, in some ways, I would say, a creature of circumstance. necessity being the mother of invention, because you really, because you've said in interviews, like, I don't know how I did it, but I think the fact that you didn't know how to do it was kind of how you figured out how to do it.
Might
Because
be.
like you said, there was no directing schools like there are today. It's not like you're kind of like, okay, you're the director. Okay, what do I do?
Might be.
So yeah.
I like producing, directing. The old thing of you're kind of half a producer, half a director. Creation. Yeah. I don't think I would say that again. I think one's got to be more careful these days.
Well, probably, yeah, probably. What you have to be careful about everything nowadays. I mean, you could be misinterpret absolutely anything. I think
Indeed.
that's the frustrating times that we're living in. Is like we're not looking at the interpretation. We're just looking at this is what was written. And it's like, yeah, but what was he exactly saying? What is the meaning behind it? The words are words, but it's the meaning that makes them something. I don't know. That's what I would say to that. Almost wrapped up here. American training versus English training. One of the things that from doing my research with you is you talked about you really love the American training, especially when it comes to musicals. As you said, they're really singing and they're really. It's interesting because I find with the American training, the thing that lacks that the British training really has is their development of the instrument, the voice. Like all of the acting is really, I mean, I work with somebody who really is showing me kind of that style, because in America, it's all about the feeling, what are the circumstances, whereas in England, you're dealing more with how you say something.
It
Is
might
that
be.
something you've noticed?
What I noticed, I think the origin of that comment was my first Broadway audition, and Broadway auditions, I think certainly pre-COVID, have always been phenomenal. And the preparation, I mean, I think that is current in England now. But from music theatre, God, people are well trained. They know their job there. And talk about triple threats to all of that. I guess I'm really referring to that. And it's always been impressive, the American application to the job they're doing. And I guess I mean that. And I'm sure now it's the same in England. And yes, there are many other things that English training has, but I do love in the Americans that, here we go, honey, and
yeah,
I've seen some good auditions.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're just going to do some little rapid fire questions here. Do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Stay in bed as long as possible and keep your phone off.
Do you have a nighttime routine?
Yeah, watch Netflix for 3 hours.
Okay. Do you meditate?
I have to now. So I'm being taught to meditate for my health.
Good. What's the last book you read?
Oh, it'd always be work. So probably the Billy Haynes book.
Okay. What are you watching right now?
I'm watching Sex Education, British Netflix. Fantastic. It's really good.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you for doing this. I really
enjoyed
appreciate it.
And I hope to see you
wonderful.
See you in person, perhaps not too long hence.
Absolutely. How can people reach you if you want them to reach you?
Facebook, I guess. I'm very old-fashioned.
All right.
And let me know if you're in Miami or Beach or something. So be nice. Since we've only met for about half an hour. now we're almost intimate friends.
Now we've gotten there. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for that lovely research too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that about does it for my interview with Christopher Renshaw. I want to thank him for coming on. If you would like to contact him, you can find him at Chris Wrensh. That is CHRISRENSH. Christopher Renshaw on Instagram. I thought we highlighted a lot of important notes and things that I think you'll find fascinating. As I said, I want to thank him for coming on. I learned a great deal. And as always, you can find me at Justin Yachts. And if you like this, please give it a review or give it a like. Thank you. And I will see you next time on the DMF.